Welcome back to Chaplain Auto Ministries. This is week 3 of anger management behind the wire with incarcerated veterans at Chillicothe Correctional Institution. And I do have a quick announcement that has nothing to do with this class, but everything to do with the prison and the veterans who live there. On May 25th, I am going to hold Ohio's first ever prison run. The purpose of this prison run will be to remind our incarcerated veterans that they are not forgotten. On May 25th, we're going to meet at AMVETS in Circleville, Ohio, and then have an escort up to the prison where we will drive on the service road, and all of the incarcerated veterans, which will be around 150, they will be outside in the yard to watch us and hear us go by, and again, to remind them that they're not forgotten. I'm still working on some times for this, and if it's something that you're interested in, I'm excited to have you there. Preliminary would be linking up early morning for registration with kickstands up early afternoon to most likely arrive at the prison around 1 o'clock. After we go around the prison, we will head back to AMVETS, and I'm going to have a band and all kinds of stuff going on there. It will be the biggest event in Ohio and the first ever prison run. Very, very excited, and thank you so much to the warden and deputy warden and staff of this prison for letting this happen. Today we're going to learn that anger can be expressed in healthy ways. When you express anger in a healthy way, it'll help you achieve your goals versus causing division or destruction. I don't know about you, but I can personally tell you that I am an expert at handling anger the wrong way. We already know the negative side effects that anger can produce, and that is why we are taking this time to explore and learn what makes us angry. What are these triggers so that we can learn and understand them, just like a warning signal on the dash of your car or motorcycle that indicates something is wrong and it needs your attention. For example, like the pressure light for your tires or your gas light. Which one do you let shine longer and wait to address? In my class, my goal is to help you learn how to envision these signals internally so that you can address them without losing control. And this class together will allow us to create remedial action to use in real time to help us overcome the objective without becoming or taking a casualty. Anger can be like a quick release valve, a very quick explosion. For me, it can. It's like pulling the grenade and throwing the pen, and boom. It affects everyone around me with my carelessness from not owning my self-control. I'm learning that my physical state plays a role in my outburst, as well as substance abuse and my own personal belief. It's painful to comprehend some of the aspects that trigger us that we cause on our own, but understanding these deficiencies that we have will only help us become better as we learn to work against letting ourselves become angry by understanding what triggers us and exploring new ways to think. The more you practice, the better your shot gets. Life is full of weapon jams, and my course, again, is designed to help you develop your own remedial action that you can use in real time on the battlefield of life. It's not always easy, and I think that I will continuously say that, but nothing good comes easy. Think about the first time you went to the gym. The first time I went to the gym, the next morning I was sore in places that I did not know existed. So I had to make a choice. Am I going to push through this and become stronger? Or am I just not going to go to the gym the next day? And when I decide to go to the gym the next time, I'm just going to go through this repeat process of pain again. And I don't want to go through that. I want to push through it because the stronger you become, the more weight you can lift. And this will allow you to overcome the obstacles of life that will come. You have to practice and apply these things in your life. And I personally know that it'll help you. It'll help you by becoming a better person, first and foremost, and you will find peace. And I want to look at a scripture real quick from Philippians chapter 4, verses 5 through 7. It says, "Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." I want to tell you this piece is available. I have this piece and I did not have this before, and there's only one source for this. This piece will make you a better person at home, work, and in life in general. Going through this class with me will just be like a steroid to it. And I know that because it has worked for me. And if it works for me, it can work for you. It just takes patience. And patience is the longest part of that process. But during that long part of being patient, we have to continually practice. Last week, we talked about a few points that might identify if you have an issue with anger. And those were, is your anger very frequent? Does your anger get extremely intense? Does it last a long time? Does it lead to aggression or violence? Has it caused problems with work, family, maybe even the law? The premises of my class is that the feelings of anger are normal and at times justified. However, the degree to which we become angry and the reasons for our anger, to include the outcome of our anger, will determine whether or not it is in fact good. Once you can learn how to express your anger in healthy ways, it can be a change agent. It's changed my life. If you're a very passive person or someone who might feel victimized, this can turn you into someone who is very confident and assertive. Maybe you're like me when you get angry, a very aggressive person. And I want to tell you that you can learn self-control. Learning the self-control motivates me to solve problems and resolve conflict. I've learned that my anger can be converted into forgiveness versus internal resentment. And that is a completely different way to live your life. To be able to forgive and let go versus carrying that hate around in your heart all day. It is depressing, and it's someplace I never, ever want to be again. I can personally tell you that anger can be used for good, but it has to be governed by self-control. This motivates me to do what is right versus what is wrong. And a key ingredient to having self-control is integrity. Integrity is something that I learned in the military. And if you were in the military, I know that you learned that as well. When I got out of the military, I had a military boss in the car business. He was my first new car manager. His name's Scott Collins. And I remember him saying, integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one else is looking. No one can take your integrity away from you. However, you can forfeit your integrity. That's powerful. It can't be taken from me. If you forfeit your integrity, you surrender your self-control. And we are trained not to surrender. Speaking of training, have you started to develop and practice any remedial action yet, from understanding and identifying your triggers or recognizing a feeling that can identify that you've been triggered, like heart rate, muscle tone, breath? I think that the hardest trigger for me to work on is that sifting through my irrational thought process, defining what is actually an irrational thought and squeezing it out of my mind has been one of the most painful, non-physical experiences of my life. And now I understand that I can create thoughts in my head that push me over the edge. And there was a time that I had to take a real look at my lifestyle and say, is my lifestyle disrupting my logical thinking and creating irrational thoughts? Because I didn't understand that being chemically unbalanced can do so much to how you think, act, and respond. And obviously, I get that, being intoxicated, yeah, it affects it then. But I wasn't aware of how it would affect you the next morning. And looking back now, I see all these times where I just woke up feeling not coherent and very irritable. Being very irritable and not coherent would not be good to entertain irrational thoughts. Understanding who I am and that things like fatigue or not enough sugar, maybe not enough sleep, these things can really unhinge me if I'm not conscious of my physical state. So I try my best to plan ahead. If I have a long trip, I try to pack some food, but obviously life happens. And because I didn't get to eat, you know, between a 7-hour period with going to prison and being there all day and coming home, I cannot be a jerk. I cannot be a jerk when I come home. I need to be a loving husband. It doesn't matter if I'm hungry or how I'm feeling. That should not affect how I treat people. There was an opportunity for me to stop at the gas station or fast food on the way home. If I didn't do that, that's my fault. Don't be a jerk. Sometimes I will give a, warning signal. Like, I'm not trying to sound rude. I just need to eat. Or if I haven't gotten enough sleep and, we're having a conversation or I just get home, say, hey, I apologize if I seem irritated. I really didn't sleep well. All of these signs have become clear to me and I'm learning how to manage them. And I try to catch this before it happens. That way, if we're having a conversation, I'll be like, hey, I didn't get the best sleep last night. So if I respond in a way that sounds like I'm irritated, I'm really not irritated. I just want to give you a heads up. All of these signs have become clear to me, but the biggest one was my lifestyle of drinking. I was a very chemically unbalanced person, and if I didn't stop drinking, I would still have these blinders on to those feelings and be very proactive at causing chaos in those moments. I've come to terms with the fact that I'm in control of my anger and not anybody else. Now, that's not something that I always want to admit, but at the end of the day, I am in control of my anger. I decide whether I get mad or not. It doesn't matter if people push my buttons. It's on me. I don't want to surrender that. And when I was in the military, I was trained not to surrender. And now I'm learning that not having self control is equal to surrendering. Here are some key points to help you handle your anger in a productive way to take action. Well, the first action you have to take is taking responsibility for your anger. You cannot blame anybody else. You have to slow your anger down by taking a timeout, getting a breath, and taking a timeout will allow you to think versus immediately acting it out. Taking a timeout will help reduce the chances of your anger becoming more intense. And another big one, don't associate with angry people. And Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 and 25 says, do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. And looking at some old quotes, I'm not sure if you've heard any of these before, but birds of a feather flock together. My dad gave me this one. If you hang around the barbershop long enough, you'll end up with a haircut. And I personally know that no one gets sober hanging out at the bar. Now, once you've built some strength, you can be around angry people to be a good, positive influence. It took me a long time for me to be able to go to the bar without wanting to drink. I mean, even as a Christian, I needed that time away. However, now I can go to the bar and I don't even think about drinking. Honestly, I think that I have more fun than the guys that I'm with that are drinking. And the good news is I wake up the next morning feeling absolutely great. Now, what I don't do is hang out at the bar every night because I don't want to adapt to that environment because I know it'll be too easy to go right back to drinking. I've had to work on myself a lot and I am keeping up at that. The first part of this episode today is really geared towards us, our anger, and how to plan to break that cycle in the moment. I've had to work on myself a lot and I keep up at that. I keep that practice going on because I want to break that cycle. And in a moment, we're going to talk about dealing with an angry person. But before we talk about dealing with someone else, you got to deal with yourself. So take a quick reflection. In the last week, did you become angry? If you did become angry, what did it resort to? I know that when I get angry, I start to yell. Sometimes I can make rude or obscene remarks. I'm far from the aggression and the violence, but maybe that's something that you and I can work on together. Now, I also get it that not everyone is loud and hateful when they're angry like I can be. And I've done some major transformation in the aggression department. If you're not seen when you're angry, then your anger is unseen and you don't know how to talk about it, and that will lead to depression. I recently dealt with something that I didn't realize was bothering me. It's something that I just kept bearing that I didn't know how to talk about. And once I recognized that there were these triggers because these thoughts were creeping up in my head and I had to do something about it. So I wrote it down. And when I wrote it down, I felt much better. But writing it down, reading it, and reflecting it opened up my eyes that I was depressed and I didn't even realize it. So, do you experience any anger? Is it quiet or is it loud? What are the consequences of that? I can tell you that when I lash out in anger, I feel a sense of guilt, regret, and shame. When I just realized that I was hiding my anger because I didn't know how to talk about a situation that I was going through, and I read through that, I realized that I was depressed. And this is something that I was dwelling on, and there was just regret over everything. It just was a not a fun feeling, kind of like dealing with an angry person. Have you ever dealt with an angry person? Has an angry person ever really pissed you off? Whose fault's that? Well, it's not theirs if you get mad. And why is it that we react defensively to angry people? And that might be because we think that, whatever they're angry about is wrong. That's how we're interpreting it. Maybe it's threatening. And that makes you want to ask, is there a way to drain the anger from someone else versus provoking their anger even more? Yeah. I mean, you just tell them to shut up and get out of your way. No. That is absolutely not what to do. And I'm going to give a biblical reference for what will help you. And this is written by King Solomon in Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. I want to repeat that. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. To me, that is very, very powerful. Think about the last time someone was very angry around you. How did you respond? Did you give a gentle answer to turn the wrath away? Or were you like me, 3 or 4 years ago and kick that beehive to stir it up? Diffusing and draining someone's anger isn't always easy. However, it can be accomplished in most cases if you use wisdom and continue to practice. Think about the last time someone was very angry and how did you respond? Did you give a gentle answer to turn the wrath away? Or were you like I was a few years ago and kick that beehive to get it all stirred up? Diffusing and draining someone's anger, it's not always easy. However, it can be done and accomplished in most cases if you use wisdom. I believe that if you practice what we are talking about here in this class, it will teach you that anger is good when you turn it into faith. You can trust in your higher power. Mine's God. You can be assertive by speaking the truth in love, as we heard with King Solomon, by problem solving, seeking the best solution, being okay of negotiating a win-win. And I want to say one of the biggest is finding forgiveness and letting go of resentment. Owning self-control and managing your anger will gain a sense of personal power, not power over others, but the power that no one will be able to make you angry. And you will have the power to choose whether or not you get upset. Having personal power is pulling your own strings and gaining self-control over yourself. If you can keep your cool, you are most likely to respond in ways that serve your best interests. On the other hand, if you want to stay angry and aggressive and continue lashing out, you might end up getting sued in a fight or arrested. When you avoid responding aggressively, you gain self-respect and most likely respect from others. You also avoid negative consequences. I want to thank you for joining here today in this training, and I hope that this is useful to you. I learn through this each time that I teach the class in 2 different prisons than here online. It's like pulling back layers of an onion, and I'm going to keep going. As we get ready to close today, I would like to leave you with a verse out of James chapter 1, verses 19 and 20, which says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. I want to thank you so much for joining here today. And if you watched the entire episode, thank you so much. I truly hope that this content is helping you. And if you have any questions or concerns, or you'd like to share some triggers that you're dealing with, some coping mechanisms, maybe how your anger is currently affecting you, maybe a current situation and how you got through it, I'd like to invite you to reach out to me. And you can do that through my email at chaplainotto@gmail.com. That is CHAPLAINOTTO@gmail.com. Or feel free to check out my website. You can contact me through there as well at chaplainautoministries.com. It's been a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to next week. Until next time, stay blessed.